welcome to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money, everything under the sun that relates to you having a happier, healthier relationship with your money. My name is Steve Sexton. I just really want to thank you for sharing with your friends and family. We have well over 1 million listeners, and we very much appreciate that worldwide. But today, we're going to talk about something. When you're dealing with finances, it's all about return on investment. And you know what? A lot of you are high performing, high achieving individuals. You know what? You're looking for something more, a way to connect, presence, clarity. When it's done with travel, my wife spent a month putting together a trip. And you know what? When travel's done, it becomes more of a getaway and it becomes investment in your well-being. And that's one of the reasons why we have Shane Mahoney here. He's the founder of Lugos Travel. By the way, he's authored this cool book called The 1840 Rule. He helps many business professionals reclaim their life through a fully personalized luxury vacation. Now, delivered in minutes. So think about that, not days. Okay? I could have saved a lot of time. With over a decade of experience crafting seamless private travel experience, Shane brings a unique blend of insight, innovation, and heart. So with that, Shane, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. I know our listeners are just really looking forward to this.
Thank you.
So the first big question I have to ask is, how'd you get into this?
I spent 12 years in sales and finance, and I found I was good at making money, but there was a part of my life that I just didn't like. I wanted to escape, to be honest. But essentially, the company was born out of frustration. And so I had this silly idea to go be a ski instructor in the French Alps. And I was 3 weeks away from selling everything I had and moving over there to make that happen. And it's hilarious how things work out because my mom saw an article in a magazine, France magazine of all, about a guy from Colorado, had a 20-year real estate agency, sold everything and moved to France and started a ski school. And I thought, Steve, if I can't get a job with this guy, I am probably the worst salesperson ever because I am living his life. I'm serious. I sent him a really long email and I was just like, basically, what's up? And he offered to talk the next day, and we did for 4 hours. And my plans very much changed. I had spent a lot of my childhood traveling. My dad was on an exploratory oil ship in the Indian Ocean. So,
Oh, wow.
I had lived in Borneo for a year, Australia for 3 years, and loved travel. But to be perfectly frank, had never considered being a travel agent an optimal job. I didn't want to sit in a cubicle, and I certainly didn't want to put together 3-day cruises. But in truth, he opened up my eyes to what could be. And I spent my 4 weeks studying the market, how people have been doing things. And then I started my company 14 years ago, and we've been going ever since.
Great. Sometimes you come across people that share their experience and you have a shared experience, but do you realize a different destiny? I've heard
Yeah.
that so many times. In fact, I've been there. So let's start with the first big question. You know what? You talk about a return on life. And you know what? Why is that return on life just as critical as a financial return?
No, I find the numbers are very similar. So I was just at a conference this last week and it was so interesting. I met a guy who specializes in retirement homes, the private ones, 5, 6 bedrooms, something like that. The average you're looking at is $8,000 to $20,000 a month to live there, right? And one of the things that I think about when it comes to return on life is you have your go-go years, you have your slow-go years, and then you have your no-go years, right? And when you're spending that kind of money every month to just be in a home and be cared for, you are in your no-go years. Those options that you had earlier in your life are now completely gone. What I always try to make sure is that people are investing in the memories that they're going to have at that time, because that is what we're all doing it for. I know no one who would not give up to their last red cent for good health if they're faced with something that confronts their mortality. And so it's just one of those things that because of what I do, probably and to some degree who I am, I've seen a lot of people really think that the decisions that they have available to them today are the ones that they have available to them in the future. And we're very quick to put things off that are lifelong dreams, to be frank, because point A, B, or C is just not perfect. And it breaks my heart to see people. I've seen people go from the go years to the no-go years in one night. In
Well,
one,
I actually agree with that. Was it 42, almost 18 years ago? If you saw my story, you know that I'm a colon cancer survivor. And if
yeah,
it wasn't for the shape that I was in, I probably
yeah,
wouldn't be here. So for a person that's full of life, very low body fat, all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
things go boom in a second. And you realize how important things. And one of the best things I ever heard from somebody was live like you're dying. If you had 2 years left, what would you do? How would you do it? And why? So when you say that, I think it's very important that people realize that, you know what, I know people who families live in the mid 90s, but there's always somebody that makes it to 60, 65, 70, but that's it.
yeah,
And I had in our family, we lived to the mid 90s. I had a younger brother who passed away at 55, and but he didn't realize it, but melanoma cancer just took him. You never know. And he was planning, I got 5 more years, I got 5 more years, and we're going to do all this stuff.
yep,
So
yep.
I think it's very cool that people, if you start thinking like that, you'll start saying, you know what, there's more to this, and maybe I should take that step now as opposed to that step later.
And that's almost a natural segue to the book, which is what is the 1840 rule? The 40 was because when I was 35, not far from you, where you got your wake up call, somebody asked me, "How old are you?" And I said, and he goes, "Oh, so you have 40 summers left." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And it was a gut punch. I just sat there and I really thought about that for a long time. Statistically, he's right. And when you say that, it's super short. But then subsequently thereafter, I had my child and I started to really hone in on the 18, which is you have 18 years to solidify the relationship you're going to have with your child for the rest of your life. And then I went down this rabbit hole of looking up things. And I found out that when you're in your kid's 18th year, statistically, you'll spend more time with them that year than you will for the rest of your life. And it's like, you don't think about things like that and how short things really are. And so I love that gave me a lot of perspective to see that every decision, and I won't make it about vacations, but every decision you make affects the opportunity cost of what is available later. Years are perfect for watching over the kids or maybe taking them to Disney World. So take that vacation time when you're in your 40s and do something completely else because you'll be able to do that later. You know what I mean?
Actually, because of what occurred, we started doing things like we actually took our kids at 5 and 6 to Rome, and we saw that stuff there. We've been many places with them, and we continue to do that because we've developed that relationship. And last summer, we were in England, Paris, and Ireland, and we were in Paris a week and a half before the Olympics, which was
Nice.
very cool because you got all that stuff and saw all those people with all of Paris without the super craziness just yet.
Sure. Sure. And I bet the city was beautiful.
Yes, if you've ever been to Paris before, I'm going to say this, when you rode the subway,
Yeah.
it was clean. It had a bleach smell, and the sidewalks were clean. Somebody cleaned them off. It didn't smell
Nice.
like Mardi Gras. Hey, you understand what I'm saying?
So he's
Uh,
fabulous.
but you know what? It's just those things that you're talking about right now make a big difference. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show. I truly want to thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you sharing with your friends and family and associates on the show. All the replays are available at www.savingwithsteve.us. If you're enjoying the stories of helpful insight and on Saving with Steve, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out a few of our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio New York City, E360 TV, Las Vegas TV Networks, and AM/FM 247. All these networks are dedicated to empowering you to solve problems, uplift your spirit, and live a life of personal and financial freedom. Let's get back to Shane. One of the big questions all our listeners have is, how do you create luxury travel experiences without the luxury price tag?
Oh, that's fantastic. We're all looking for a deal, but I always like to think of a mind shift when it comes to this particular question. Okay. I think we as people have been trained, probably correctly, to buy things in a certain and specific way. Okay, so it's the terrible example. You need a white t-shirt. On your left side is a $100 one. On your right side is a $20 one. Which one are you most likely going to buy? You just need a white t-shirt. So we were programmed that like the things are relatively equal. However, we now have a choice of price versus some level of quality or look, right? I had to really start to think differently because vacations, in essence, are completely separate from that. What is the least expensive vacation you could possibly take? It's no vacation at all. It's to stay home. So once you've made the tacit decision that you are going to have a vacation, you are by nature also saying, I am going to spend money. And the value equation changes from how much money is this going to cost, but what type of experience am I going to have? On a budget level, you just want to balance those. But in essence, never forget that the budget, when you start pinching pennies on your vacation, what you're in essence truly doing is saying, that is an experience I do not wish to have. Okay. So understanding the decision you're really making. Okay. So how do you do budgets? We've addressed this in our company by doing unified pricing. So the price is the same with no blackout dates throughout the entire year. But if you're a DIYer, you're not going to have that. So what you would do is you would look for shoulder and off seasons. These are classic tips. If you would necessarily go to a specific city in the winter, then switch it up and go there in the summer, because more than likely their prices are going to be lower and things like that. For example, if you're going to be in the French Alps, most people associate being there during the skiing season, but you can have an incredible time in the summer and do something very much like a Sound of Music experience at a fraction of the price.
Okay. So basically, now help us out. What is a shoulder?
Right. So this goes right to the essence of it, right? And again, I'm describing my industry, but not me. What hotels and the industry did is they said, okay, there's high season. This is, for example, in Europe, this would be April through October. And then where the real high season is more like June, July, August, right? So what is a bell curve of pricing? As you get towards the later days of September through October, those would be your shoulder season, where it's not quite going into the full summer season or the full winter season when people typically have their breaks, like summer and Christmas. So it's that kind of in between time. Aside from smaller crowds, you also have preferential pricing and just less crowds, honestly, for me. I think that's
I could see a lot less people. I don't have to wait as many lines.
Yeah.
Dealing, you know what, I've been to the French Alps, I've been skiing there, and I've been during the high season, and it's just one of those things, it's almost like a cattle prod in some places where you're just being shuffled along with a lot of people. A lot of people.
You'll love us because Lugos Travel does only private tours. We don't do any group tours of any kind. We literally take care of everything from A to Z.
It's kind of nice not have to worry about it. We had people who did it themselves, and they found the least expensive way to do everything.
Sure.
And they were more frustrated about all the things that they didn't have.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is they had all the extra stuff they had to do with travel, the connections and stuff like that, because it was the cheapest flight. Okay.
Right.
It took somebody 2 days to get somewhere that should have took 8 hours. Okay. And the experience at the hotel, they didn't really care too much about the room, but they didn't really have a chance to rest because of where the room was. It was just those little things. Hey, I got cheap, but I really didn't have a vacation. I didn't really relax.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, hey, if you want to save some money, shoulder season, try to find the least expensive for the quality that you want.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you're taking a look at, you go to certain places and they have these events that you can sign up for and go to. How do you look at that when reference to the quality of those events?
The events, what kind of events are you talking about?
You're in Ireland, you're going to tour Trinity College and you want to see the Book of Kells and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know what? There's multiple levels of tours there. How do you look at the one that's really going to get you the experience where you feel like you're behind the scenes?
Yeah, all of our clients have skip the line access. So I don't believe in waiting lines at all. I feel like you've waited long enough just to be there in your life. So let's just get you to the thing you want to see. but there are definitely different levels. Like to talk to you, so you take that experience, for example, that you gave, the Book of Kells and the Trinity College, right? Okay, so there is the average tour, right? You could pay your entrance fee and you have the headphones and you can learn what you need to learn, right? That's like
Hmm.
your entrance, right? That'll get you there. And if you're a budget traveler, that's fantastic. You should absolutely do that. Don't sweat it. Then there's like a level above where you have a private guide that's going to have some general knowledge of Trinity College, the Book of Kells, and then a number of other things that you'll see and do over the next 3 or 4 hours. Okay. Then there's another level where you could have a subject matter expert give you a curtailed and specific tour of Trinity College and the Book of Kells. And then I would say, if you're willing to go so far, now we could probably try to arrange the president of the Trinity College give you a private tour and have dinner together and something like that. That would be probably the next highest level. So there's a lot of things that you could all consider them luxury, right? Because on some level you had a great experience, but there's various, of course, differences between those.
I actually agree with you. Way back when I used to develop businesses around the world, the owner of my business, we were in at Hampton Court Palace, but he had what they call a concierge that the hotel arranged that actually drove us to Hampton Court and
Mm,
went through every little thing, showed us the behind the scenes stuff, how King Henry would get from the top down to the bottom through secret doors.
right,
And you know what, you were like, oh my God, this
right.
stuff you never see. And then to walk us through that hedge maze and everything that was there, I'll just say that was on a different level, and I'll never ever forget that.
Yeah.
I've seen a few things like that, and I could see there's a difference between taking the regular tour and something like that. So,
I think probably one of the hallmarks of luxury, in my opinion, is being able to delve deeper into your interests, right? If you're into cars, we'll get you on the track with the car you want to drive, or even on public roads. If you're into watches, one of my clients is into watches, right? He went to Geneva and he's, oh, I want to go to the museum. And I was like, no, you don't. He's like, yes, I do. And I go, I'm going to get you with a actual watchmaker, and we're going to do a behind the scenes tour of an actual high end watch company. And we're going to have something completely different for you. But the thing is, you should do whatever you can do, right?
mhm.
Because ultimately, you may not have the chance or that at that opportunity again. If you do, fantastic, love it. And maybe you've made a little bit more coin and you can afford to do it the better way. But more than anything, Steve, I really advocate for people to not wait for the ideal, perfect opportunity and time, but to get after it.
Hey, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money. We're talking to Shane Mahoney about travel and the things you can do. In our last segment, we're talking about the levels of different travel experiences. And I just want to share one of mine, which we took when our kids were like 6 and 7. We actually were in Rome, Italy. We stayed at this hotel, and my kids thought it was so funny because they were listening to Bugs Bunny and the cartoons in Italian. But this was one of those places that you see all the nice cars out front and all that. But they also took us for a behind the scenes tour, an after hours tour of the Vatican Museum. And after that, we went into this area after seeing the Sistine Chapel and being told about that. We went into this area, had this wonderful dinner, and then we had the lovely three tenors sing to us.
Uh,
And for 6, 7-year-old kids to go, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. They're in their 20s now, and they have not forgot that. It was just something else.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, actually, Pavarotti wasn't there. The other two were, but it doesn't matter. It was just like, oh.
Incredible. Incredible.
And it was an organization that I worked with that did that, and it was just something else. That whole trip was just something else, and it really lit the fire of understanding history. So
Mm,
I'm the type of guy who can spend 3 days at the Louvre because I want to read and see everything. And it's because of stuff like that. If you have that opportunity, the higher level of experience, you will never forget it because life is about experiences. You can't take the money with you. But you
true.
know what? Let's talk about something that is really big. But how do you build meaningful travel into busy schedules without overspending? Because quite frankly, everybody's working like a dog right now and they're working long hours and the whole thing. So how do we go about doing that?
I've spent an enormous amount of time thinking about what my clients life really looks like. I mean, if you have kids almost of any age, by the time you've gotten through school, after school activities, sports, studying, homework, dinner, shower, by the time all of that happens, your probably first chance with your spouse to sit and talk about anything of substance is like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And your energy is at its lowest point. Are you going to jump on the computer and start researching hotels and doing all this stuff? The truth is, the psychology of people is that they have that moment where they know they're going to call a professional and get it done, but they also keenly know that working with a professional is not like a snap of the fingers and it's done. They know that it's a stressful 2 to 3 week process because that's every company on the planet except mine.
Mm.
We meet people where they are. Okay. I understand what it's like to not have the time, effort, and energy to be able to put the true effort that it takes into having a world class experience in another country, making sure that your safety is taken into concern and your budget. Yeah. Yeah, if you're stressed out, you're going to probably take a bad plan over having no plan, right? So here's what we see a lot. Person will approach a travel professional. It takes 3 to 5 business days to get a proposal. They make one request to change it. It's going to be another 3 to 5 days to get an update. The process is typically 2.5 to 3 weeks. Okay. Now, that's stressful. And here's the thing is if you started it 4 to 6 months out, that would be no big deal. A 3 week process at that time isn't a problem. But the reality is people kick the can down the road when they know something is going to be stressful. So they really approach professionals like me typically 2 to 3 months out. Okay. And Steve, if you're in a 3 week process at that time, your brain for the whole 3 weeks is just going nuts, right? And that's why we've seen an increase in cruising, even though that's still only 4% of the total market, going where you've been before, or the all inclusive buffet, whatever, right? Those three things are very easy and quick to plan. However, they're not enriching, they're not rejuvenating you, they're not adding to your life in any which way, but they are extraordinarily quick to plan, right? And so people take that bad plan over having no plan because then the stress is off of them and they can then refocus on their spouse, their kids, their job, the normal stresses. I believe that we have enough normal stresses. And our system was designed to be able to get people 100% of the information that they need within 10 minutes, not 3 days, and we allow for customization at home so that you can actually create a completely custom proposal that tailors to everything you might see or want to do. And our record for a client going from zero to finished was 47 minutes.
That's great.
I give you your time back. And here's the thing is you have to be the kind of client who does not want to sacrifice quality. Okay. We are at about $1,000 per person per day. Okay. Uh,
Okay.
so it's not a budget service, but what it is very simple. Okay. It's just very direct. And what we did is we worked with all of our partners for multiple years to create a unified pricing system. So the price, it doesn't matter. You honestly don't tell me what day you're going to go on your trip until after you've agreed to go.
You know what? That actually sounds like my South Africa trip because it was about $1,000 a day for the
Yeah.
7 days. But it's just things and do things that you never ever will forget in your life. And some people told me they go, "Oh, that's like a zoo." I go, "It's not. You've never seen a tiger, a lion chase down a springbok.
Yeah.
You've never seen a giraffe in 8 feet of grass. You've never seen a feeding hole. That's wild." So let's see. When we're looking at creating these things, we can do them in all in 47 seconds. 47, I want to say 47 seconds. It sounds so
47.
fast, but
47.
47 minutes. And so it's one of those things where somebody has a menu and they're working with somebody saying, this works, that doesn't work.
Yes. So essentially, what we did is we created what we call the essential tour. And it's every piece and part that anybody would need for any trip, anywhere, whether they've never been there or they've been there 5 times. In honest truth, it's not what we added, it's what we just took away. We took away anything that's just extraneous. Okay. So we include as a very baseline private English speaking transportation 100% of the time that you have your luggage with you. We begin that service from your front door. So we pick you up at your house, we take you to the airport, and we are not finished with that until you're back at your doorstep. Okay. I just always believed that a vacation should start when you leave your house, not when you get there. So, second thing, we include 4-star and up hotels. We do typically boutique style. We focus and concentrate on having an architectural or historical component when we can. They're typically city center. They're going to be walkable to a lot of points of interest and restaurants. And we're going to start your vacation with a welcome dinner because we want you to start with a great meal. The next morning, we include breakfast daily, and we include one privately guided tour in every city that you visit. In essence, if you did a 10-day tour that had 3 cities, you'd have 3 private tours. But what you'd also have, Steve, is a fair amount of free time, okay? Days at leisure. So the base package includes everything that you need and gives you that baseline and says, okay, now you have time. We've seen 2 different types of customers at that point. One, I call serendipity travelers. They just want to get lost, go find something. They'll just figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. Great. I love it. Honestly, I've been that way. We provide the tools. So we have a custom app that's going to provide a map. We've custom located all the points of interest. You can get turn-by-turn directions. You want to go do that and explore on your own. It's all good. Okay. We're going to give you the tools. But more than that, we also realize that as people are out there just wandering around, they might be hungry. And we don't want you to stumble into a bad restaurant. So we also added a curated set of restaurants all on the map. So anywhere you are in the city, you can be pretty close to something decent. We're not talking about Michelin star necessarily, but we're rated local places that are good. Okay.
But if that in itself is really very important.
Yes.
Because when we were in Paris, we just started walking when we got there, and we started, okay, where do we go to get something to eat? And we were lucky enough to run across somebody who was nice enough to say, hey, if you would like a good restaurant, and this is a gentleman by the Eiffel Tower, he goes, you want to go to that one right over there? And I tell you, it was probably the best meal. My kids are in their 20s, and they're really, everybody was already tired, but they're sitting there going, that's the best thing in my life.
You know why that's really important, Steve, is I was actually in Brussels. I was in Brussels, Belgium, and thankfully I was there with a representative of the country. So he was able to give me a lot of insights into some things. But there's like places where there's whole rows of restaurants, and there's always a guy or a girl outside who, as you're walking by on the alleyways, come on in, we've got this great food, and they got all the pictures and all this stuff. And you have no idea how many people eat there. But what you don't know, or what they don't know, is that restaurant does not have a kitchen. That kitchen is a couple of blocks away. And by the time the food gets to you, these things are not connected. So there's a level of quality. I don't want you to spend 1 second, let alone one meal, with something that's subpar when there's something quite amazing right across the street and you just didn't know it. So for those types of travelers, we make it very simple and we're very easy. But for the other types of travelers who like to have things a little bit more set up or have a deeper understanding of certain things, we basically broke everything down into 3 categories. So our explore category is for anybody who wants a cultural experience: people, places, history, architecture. We have a menu of items that are going to be significant to that particular location that you can choose from. And it's as easy as click, I want it. And you'll have a price per person. If you are a bit of a foodie, we call our savor section anything foodie related: tastings, wineries, breweries, distilleries, cooking classes, Michelin star dining opportunities. Super easy. Boom, we can start filling some of your time with that. And then the third one, and this is probably honestly my favorite, is we call it our excite category. And it's anything adrenaline related: hot air balloons, whitewater rafting. On the slightly wilder side, we can have you drive Ferraris on public Italian roads right after visiting the Ferrari Museum, or we could close down a track and let you drive there. If you're so inclined, I can get you into a Navy fighter jet and you can go really fast. There's really a lot of cool stuff to do.
Hey, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money. You know what? I just want to thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you letting your friends and families know. You know what? Check out our replays at savingwithsteve.us. If you're enjoying the stories of helpful insight like with Shane sharing today, hey, go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, never miss a show. Check out a few of our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio New York City, E360 TV, Las Vegas TV Network, AM FM 247. They're all dedicated to empowering you to solve problems, uplift your spirit, and live a life of personal financial freedom. So we have Shane Mahoney here. We're talking about what travel. And you know what? One of the things that y'all wanted to know is, hey, let's hear about some real stories. And then I'd like to hear a little bit more about your book too. And then, hey, if people want to get a hold of you, let's talk about that as well. So let's go hit it. Let's talk about some real stories of clients and their experiences and what they did.
Sure. Yeah, I love this. And thanks so much for asking this. One of my clients, he and his wife have two young daughters. I think they're 12 and 10 years old. He recently went on a trip to France with us. And he said it was the first real vacation he's had since having a family. Because I think the way he detailed it to me, he said, I normally have to plan all this stuff. And then you have the kids that are complaining, like, oh, do we have to do this today? And he was like, yeah, it's already booked. It's already paid for. We're going. So it took all the decision making out of it. But he also said because you included the drivers where I would normally rent a car, I was actually able to see the stuff that the kids and my wife were seeing and participate in the conversation instead of white knuckling it down a road I've never driven before in a country I've never before. And so he said the entire experience allowed him to really relax and come back rejuvenated and refreshed and able to go back to work again. And I think that's the whole point of probably hiring a professional is it's a true escape. I've always said if you do it yourself, there's two things you can never ever do. You can never surprise yourself, okay? And when you're there, you will never stay in vacation mode because you will constantly be going to work mode to fix the things that are going wrong. I woke up this morning to a client of mine in Italy who was robbed. They were robbed this morning. Their backpack was stolen, but we were able to immediately get them some help. And because of the conversations that I had with them prior to them leaving, they were out a little bit of cash in the guy's driver's license. They were able to cancel all the credit cards within a few minutes. And it was really no harm, no foul in a real sense, because I had told them not to make sure not to have a lot of cash on them. So they had left the passports and the real money back in the safe. What are the real stories? We've had so many clients where we do a first class essentials kit, right? Steve, how many times do you think I've been asked over the years, what kind of adapter do I need to have to you're laughing, right?
Like 100 times.
The thing is, I think a lot of times we're like, oh, hey, here's one, go on Amazon, right? And I was like, I feel like we could do better. So we actually ship our clients as soon as they purchase a tour luggage tags, a luggage scale so that your bag doesn't go over, the adapters, and also an extra battery backup for your phone. And just sending that's to talk about clients that are like, I can't believe this. This is all top tier stuff. I didn't expect any of this. So that's a way I like to surprise and delight. He was custom ordering a new Bentley. Okay. And so we arranged a UK tour where we had coordinated with the factory to know when his car was going to roll down the line. And then we had him see his car rolling down the line before it's going to get shipped to him a little while later. And then I found a museum that specializes in automotive and jets. And my research found that the president of the museum was the head of the Bentley organization or the Bentley Club.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I put them together, and the president gave my client a private tour of the museum, and then they had lunch together. The bulk of our tours is just very simple. It's just that it's an amazing experience that costs you very little time and absolutely no knowledge of anything. We take care of every single question that could come up.
Yeah, I think the cool thing is you get a lot of time.
Yeah,
Because I've worked overseas, I've done all that stuff, but I do understand when you say white knuckling it down like the first time you don't know where you're going,
sure,
cobblestone street, the whole shot, and it's thin and everything, and you
sure.
sometimes go the wrong way and you're like, oh crap, I got to back up, and you block up everything.
Yeah,
Done that.
Yeah, with your wife in the car, they're like, "Oh, look at this beautiful castle," and you're like, "I can't."
Oh yeah, been there. I totally get that. And I do totally get the fact that the work mode piece when you have to solve something or you have to go get the car rental or you have to try to decipher what somebody's saying and so forth.
Yeah,
You don't have to. Those are big things that make a big difference in somebody's life or their experience. Because every time I've had the best experience, I never worried about a thing. They said, "Hey, what time do I got to show up?" Okay, great, bus. It leaves at this time. Perfect. What time's breakfast? Great. That's it. I
yeah.
love that.
You want a good client story? This is a good client story. All right, train strikes. They happen all the time. Can't sometimes even predict them. But what we do is, like I said, anytime you have your suitcase, we're going to make sure that a car picks you up. So our client are accustomed to being picked up at the hotel with, and then driven to the train station. And so they were expecting that they were going to get on the train, they were going to arrive, and then another driver was going to take them to their hotel. Super simple, super direct. But at 2 a.m. the morning before, the train strike just got called. They didn't know. Why would they need to? Our client woke up, had a nice breakfast, got in the car, expecting to go to the train station, and they were then informed, hey, by the way, there's a train strike. This car is actually going to take you the whole way. And since obviously that takes a little bit longer than the train ride, we've arranged for a stop in this city. We'll arrange a place for you to go ahead and have lunch, and you can walk around for an hour or two, check it out, and we'll get you where you need to be, no problem. Which experience would you rather have, Steve?
Oh, the second ladder, big time, big
You
time.
know, what do we do? Essentially, we're like your coach that's sitting behind you, okay? And we see the whole field and we see what's happening, and we're able to direct the resources in the right place to ensure that no matter what, your experience is tantamount. And to that effect, we are, knock on wood, we're 14 years in and have yet to have less than a 5-star review.
That's awesome. Let's talk about this. We've got about 3 minutes left. I'd like you to talk a little bit about your book and then tell us how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, thanks. So, Steve, this year has been a bit of a roller coaster for me. I found out earlier this year that I'm 48. I have Parkinson's, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
thank you, but it's okay. And subsequent to that, I've found a couple of other interesting genetic issues as well. I'm lucky in that I'm okay now. Right now, I have full faculty, full everything. Everything is good. But it's interesting because for about 3 years, I'd had all of these ideas swirling around about a book, and I didn't really have a point. I didn't understand, you know what I mean? I didn't know how to tie it all together. It was a lot of different stories. It's really interesting the clarity that came from the diagnosis because for me, all of it came together just really quickly. And so the book is, as I said before, the 1840 rule, and it's about the time that you have left, but it's also about being able to think about like what's important, right? And putting the priorities behind those that they merit. And then more than that, not being attached to whether it works out or not, right? So my philosophy is a lot about doing your absolute level best because that's who you are. And when it works out, don't go patting your back and thinking that you're amazing. It could just be luck, but it doesn't really matter whether it worked out. Oh, and it also doesn't matter if it totally fails. If you were being true to your direction and like yourself, then be okay with whatever it was and understand that was just part of your journey. So I loved how all of these ideas coalesced together and were underpinned by stories of people who have lived their lives very fully, or unfortunately, like we said earlier, found out about their no go years a little sooner than they expected. So that's the book. And I've been very lucky. It's been out now a little over a month and it's had very positive reactions. I'm very blessed that we were a Amazon bestseller and hit #1 in multiple categories. But it's very much my mission to get people to make sure that they use their time very effectively and well.
Folks, if you want to get the book, it's called 1840, the
1840
1840
rule.
rule, and you can get it at Amazon. Shane, we just have like 15 seconds. How can people get a hold of you?
Easiest way is Shane Mahoney 360.com. So SHANEMA honey 360.com.
First of all, Shane, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. This has been very cool. Allows me to relive some experiences and hear
Thank
about
you.
what you can do for many people out there. How do we get in contact?
Shane Mahoney 360.com. I am Steve, the second most famous Shane Mahoney on the planet right now.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money. Everything under the sun relates to you having a happier, healthier relationship with money. Again, my name is Steve Sexton. I want to thank you for joining us and sharing us with your friends and family. But I want to talk to you a little bit about here we are. What, a week or so ago, we had the shutdown, and a lot of people emailed in, Steve, what's going on with the shutdown? How it's going to affect the country? How it's going to affect the markets? So let's talk about this. You know what? The U.S. economy is, quite frankly, on a nice edge right now. The labor market is slowing, meaning it's softening up. Inflation continues to rise. And now just the thought of a shutdown gives people angst. At the end of the day, a shutdown is going to affect people who live paycheck to paycheck and people who rely on government assistance. And yes, that's going to affect some people. For a lot of people, the services we need to make decisions get affected. What am I talking about? All those government entities that gather data for jobs and all that kind of stuff. If there's a shutdown, these are the individuals who are not working. Right now, we are at such an important point that all data is needed. Why? Because the markets are expecting some more cutbacks. If they don't have the complete data, meaning the Federal Reserve, come the next Federal Reserve session, if the Federal Reserve doesn't have the data, how are they going to make any type of decisions? I can see that kind of start to cloud the markets, but otherwise, typically, government shutdowns don't affect the markets all that much. Now, let's move on to another subject. All we hear every day in the market is record set. Every time we hear about records being set, whether they're in the markets or sports, anything else, it gives us a tremendous sense of optimism. And let's look behind the records of today when it comes to the market. To you, at a time, at an age you've never been, at a time you've never been in. So I want you to think about this. The last time we had a market just like this was in 1964. In fact, the top five companies were AT&T, General Motors, Exxon, IBM, Texaco, and they were responsible for 30% of the growth in the S&P. So you think about this. 5 stocks responsible for 30% of the growth of the S&P. Okay? 5 were responsible for 500's growth. And here we are 60 years later, standing in the exact same position. The top 5 stocks are NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, and Amazon. Do you know what happened 2 years following 1964? We went on a 16-year bear market. Remember, gold was going through the roof. Whereas gold today, it's going through the roof. Remember that we had an inflation problem. Now, what we have today is not as bad as it was in the 70s, but right now, we have an inflation problem today. There's a lot of similarities. This small concentration of stocks driving the market creates the possibility of a systemic risk. So think about this. When so few control so much, all it takes is one thing to permeate through the entire market, to create ripples through the entire market. So this is the reason you want to say, hey, you know what? If you're managing your own stuff today, if you have hired somebody to make sure your lifestyle stays intact, you want to ask 3 questions. Number 1, how is your portfolio engineered to take advantage of the good? And when I'm talking about the good is the opportunities, because in chaos, there's always opportunities. Many people feel that there's a red balloon floating around Wall Street looking for a pin. And we all know what happens when the pin and the balloon hit. Pops. So how is your portfolio engineered for the bad? How is your portfolio engineered to absorb the losses? And the last one is uncertainty. Hey, for the foreseeable future, uncertainty is going to be driving a lot of decisions. So how is your portfolio engineered to keep your lifestyle intact and to get through this unscathed, some of the things that you want to think about, whether you're managing your portfolio or you've hired somebody to manage your portfolio to ensure your lifestyle stays intact. I want to thank you for joining us here today on Saving with Steve. It's been a wonderful day with Shane Mahoney. You definitely want to go check out Lugos Travel. It's something special they can do for you. And quite frankly, if you're taking a 10-day trip or a 7-day trip to Europe or some other place, you're probably pretty close to the same cost. The difference is you get a different level of travel. And you know what? A lot of times spending a little extra money gives you a lot extra time and a lot extra peace of mind. With that, I want to thank you for joining us today on Saving with Steve. Look forward to seeing you next week, next time, right here on Saving with Steve.